Hey guys, is it dark in here? It's really dark in here, I know. But I decided to do my heart to heart from this room because the other room seems to black out on me. I don't know why. It has a lot of buffering. And I just I don't know. I'm going to have to do another setup, but I didn't want all the bright lights in here. This is how dark it normally would be, guys, if I didn't have all my lights on when I do my other videos, especially my jewelry and my auctions on Facebook. It would be like this. So I'll figure something out. I don't know what I'm going to do, but we're going to talk a little bit today about generations. And I hope you're in the mood to talk about something really quickly because I will be heading out in a little while. Hi, Miss Carol. How are you? Good to have you here, Carly Q and Stephanie. I was thinking about this topic earlier today because I always, well, I'm a teacher, so I'm always reading about history and teaching about history and things that many people accomplished in their life and goals that were achieved. And as they call them, some people even call them dreams. They were so far fetched and ingrained in our psyche, things like civil rights that we take for granted today. But it wasn't long ago that our forefathers, so to speak, fought for them. And I was just thinking about that because I was reading about Rockwell. He was was a little article about him and how, his home style art and his homey um, America, apple pie, all that good stuff was illustrated in his wonderful work. And I've always liked his work. I've had a different collection of his things. I've had prints. I've always loved them. But it talked about how he had changed in the middle of actually, it was funny. He had a line where he said something about, I'm turning 70, a quote that I remember very vaguely. And of course, I'm messing it up. But he said something, I'll celebrate my 70th birthday next month, and it's time for me to be an adult. And what he meant by that was that he had turned kind of liberal in his views and liberal to what he had grown accustomed to and what other people perceived as threatening, which segregation and all of that. So he wanted to start drawing on those things. Excuse me, I don't mean that literally, but he wanted to start illustrating his new way of thinking. And so I think it's turned out that he did a wonderful illustration of is it Ruby Bridges, I believe, that had to be walked to class with the armed marshals, and how he went through that process and how he took he even got death threats about doing that kind of thing. So I was just thinking about different generations and how we've contributed to the fabric of this great country of ours here in the United States. And I know I get a lot of people from other countries, so welcome. I'm so glad you're here. This is just a heart-to-heart talk that I like to do on Monday nights, where we can just talk about what's on our minds and all of that, and how he was actually, Norman Rockwell was fired or kind of parted ways with the Washington Post, I believe is where he had done most of his work, and then he went on to Life magazine. And it was just very interesting because I keep thinking about that kind of thing and how, luckily we've evolved from a lot of things, but we're also facing a lot of things now that people are quick, including myself, quick to criticize and quick to say, oh, I don't know about that. Oh, I wouldn't do it that way. Or I don't think that. Because I mean, there's things going on in the news right now, like things that they want to legalize. I'm not on board. I'm not on board on a lot of those things. And, just because everyone's using it or whatnot, that we should legalize it. And, I feel like science really has a lot more to tell things, or even the vaping thing that's going on right now. We've had a lot of bad accidents happen at our own school. I do teach middle school, and middle school is, oh my gosh, just a hotbed of problems. They're growing up. They want to be hip. They want to do what everybody else is doing. They don't want to be made fun of. They're so self-conscious. So they go and they do things like that. And they've hurt themselves vaping. They get in lots of different issues. And like I said, that's a legal thing, right? Right now, vaping is legal here in Texas, but it's not legal for little children and all of that. So there's a lot of things that I see that I'm like, oh, I just don't know why people just think that it's so easy to just put, oh yeah, let's just legalize it and we'll all, run around with red eyes and see how we drive, right? I mean, that's the way I see it. I don't know. But then I think there's other things that this generation, and what I mean by this generation, I don't mean Gen Xers. I mean this generation of millennials that are running the country right now. They're pretty much, or they're going to be completely running the country right now. And there's a lot of things they're putting out there that I think I had kind of not understood and have come to realize they have a lot of merit. One of those is the Me Too movement. There's a lot of things that have been exaggerated by that, but I think it's a good idea to stand up for women in the workforce like that. Women, and I grew up at a time when uh, if I was harassed, if I was hit on, I kind of took care of it myself. I remember I was a welder. I was a welder's helper. I was a painter's helper. I was literally around men all day long out in the field. And I remember one guy tried to touch my hand or something, and I didn't want to get in trouble with the boss, with the foreman. So I just took the first thing I could find. I think it was a big steel brush and hit him over the on his hand with it. I took care of it that way. Nowadays, there's things that you can do. You can make the report. You can, so forth and so on. And I used to feel like, well, why can't they just take care of it themselves? But again, it's a culture. It's a culture thing, and I think it's a good thing people are bringing it to the forefront. I've changed my mind on a lot of things like that. Yeah, why should we put up with it? I mean, but then again, there's the other side of it. Men are now afraid to even, ask a woman out on a date because of that. But then again, there's a place that you can ask for a date, and there's a place that you should be able to come to work and not have to feel that way, right? And so I think that's a good thing. And I was just running that through my head today about that. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that there are definitely some merits in everyone's toolbox? Every generation has had their issues, and they've had their things to deal with, and maybe all the answers they've had have not been correct. Maybe stepping into a war here, or speaking out about this, or wanting to preserve that was not always right. I don't know. I think we should have our heads open to all kinds of things and really examine it. It doesn't mean you have to change your mind about everything. Like I said, there's certain things I'm not going to change my mind about. I can tell you right now, I don't think legalizing this or the other is a good thing for anyone. Decriminalization might be something else. That's something else. I don't think you should throw someone in jail, for making a mistake in their life that didn't hurt anybody but themselves. But that's another story, right? So, yeah, I've come to realize that the Me Too movement, though some people may take it to another extreme and we may not understand it, I think the gist of it, I think the basis of it is good. It really is. It's good to be able to walk into a place, get hired. I think we're always going to get hired for our looks. We're going to we're going to go up the ladder for our looks. That's just human nature. But when you act on it, it's a different thing. And I remember my psychology professor telling us that. And like I said, I went back to school when I was an adult. I already had 2 children when I was sitting in that psychology class. And as he was saying it, this beautiful young girl with tight jeans walks by, and he just looks at her up and down. And I had to giggle because, I don't know. I had to giggle that he was saying that. He was saying something like, well, we're always going to get ahead, whether we're good looking or whether we're smart. And then he looks at this girl and you'll get better grades. And yeah, we've seen it, we've all seen it, but it doesn't mean we always have to accept it either. Right. But hey, Dawn, how are you? The topic is just generational thinking, Dawn, and how there's certain things that never change but should change. There's things that have changed that are for the good. And there's this group speak sometimes that we are quick to dismiss. And I mean, I don't think it's partly because of the media, because the media just gives us snippets, you know? They don't really give us, insight until, like I said, until, like, if you've lived it, if you've been a career woman and you know what it's like to work with all men and you've been harassed, or maybe you even found your husband, you know, maybe you might think differently. That's just what I'm saying. There's different points of view at different times in your life. And I'm sitting here in the dark because I want to be a little bit more heart to heart. And it seems like in my other room, guys, I keep losing you to buffering. I don't know why. But yeah, that's the thing that was going through my mind, and how each generation will contribute. You know, I always have to correct people that I didn't grow up in the 60s with the radicals and the hippies. I grew up in the disco era. I was when the hippies were, you know, doing what they were doing in Woodstock, and Janis Joplin was singing about it. I was listening to, you know, the Archies, and I was that was not my generation. So I read about it in history, and I think about the things that people fought over and people got done, and they got done because they fought about it, right? And they're doing a lot of things these days that they're fighting for injustices. They're fighting for rights. They're fighting for women to be able to work where, you know, wherever they want, free to not be harassed and not, you know, not be hit on. Or I mean, you think about the things that are going on right now in big corporate America with women that have much bigger and, you know, jobs than just, let's say, you know, a school teacher, or because I'm a school teacher, I can say that, but let's like the big people that are on the news, and they're coming out and they're saying, "Hey, this guy made me get him his coffee. He closed the door and he tried to rape me, and you know, but I really wanted this job that was paying me six figures." And you know, and power plays are, you know, they can come from, like I said, someone who's just hiring you at your first sales job selling shoes, or someone who's hiring you in the job that you've worked for you know, 10, 15 years to try to get on front of a camera, and you're making all this money. And what I'm saying is that when I was quick to scoff at that and think to myself, hey, I was able to take care of my own when I was young and beautiful and was harassed and hit on, and I was able to grab something and hit them over the head with it and took care of it right then and there. You know, I don't know what would have happened if I had reported it. Maybe they would have just said, "Ah, he's just, you know, crazy, whatever." But now you have recourse, and you can, you know, I don't, I'm not saying you have to sue and go crazy, but you know, it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that this generation it has brought that to the forefront, and that our daughters and can work free of having to feel like, you know, if you don't smile a certain way, or if you don't dress a certain way, you're not going to get ahead, you know. I think that's a good thing that this generation has brought to the forefront. Lots of that kind of thing, whereas, you know, in the 60s it was considered outrageous that people were going to be sitting right next to a person that was not of their race. They considered that outrageous, and they fought against it until enough minds were changed, right? And I was just talking about that, um, because I think that, you know, sometimes we're quick to say, "Oh, they don't know this and they don't know that," and I don't. I think they've brought a lot of good things to the table, and I'm certainly grateful to be here to witness it, honestly. But I know another reason why I was thinking about this. Again, I was reading that article about Norman Rockwell, the typical all-American artist who, you know, with that painting that he did of the marshals having to escort that child to class, received a lot of death threats and all. And then he was changed, you know, not just because of that, but he started evolving. And he said it happened at 70, you know. He started thinking beyond commercialism, beyond what am I going to get paid for this painting, but what am I going to say with my work? And then I was listening to some videos today, and the people that were on the panel, I would say they were Gen Xers. I think Gen X is more like the 40 year olds, right? Um, yeah, like mid 40s. And I couldn't believe some of the things that I still had all while I was growing up. I um, I hope that younger people don't do this kind of thing. They may, but you know what? I've witnessed some really good behavior from my kids, my students, and the way they treat each other. Many of them, you can tell which ones have the great parents, right? Because they're very cordial. They know how to treat other people. They don't make fun of people. But this panel that I was listening to, it was incredible because there was two men there, which I would not call anywhere near good looking. One of them was probably 100 pounds overweight. The other one had, just nothing to write home about. But they were sitting there criticizing overweight women and saying something like, "Oh, she's too old and she's too fat." And the men there are, both of them were nothing to write home about. One of them was overweight himself, but yet I still hear, and I have to chuckle and laugh and I want to say something so bad, but I don't like to start fights on chats. That, dude, you're overweight yourself. What makes you think that you can sit there and say some woman is too fat for you? Come on. That's just incredible. And again, that's a Gen Xer. That's someone in their 40s. I don't think I would hear 30-year-olds talk that way today. And I think that's a good thing. Hi, Junk Girl. Let me say hi to a couple of people while I quit ranting for a second and catch a deep breath. All right, we got Brat Cat. Yeah. Oh, that's a different thing, Brat Cat. That's a different thing. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about that right now. Let me see, Junk Girl, Thelma Harper, how are you? Miss Harper, I'm glad to see you here. And Julie, how are you? And Angela Silver, no, I'm not saying everything they're coming up with today I agree with. Don't you even think that. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not even there. Carly Q, we said hello to Carly, and Kim Cree and Laura Lopez. Second Act, Thrifter. I see a lot of new names here. Thank you so much for coming in, and thank you for subscribing, guys. I usually do jewelry and I do thrift hauls and all kinds of things, but I wanted to do kind of a little community get together on Monday nights and just talk about what's on my mind. You don't have to agree with it. That's what makes our country great. You don't have to agree with it. I don't agree with all of y'all, I'm sure. Linda Hanson, how are you? Did I see something? Your son's a high school history teacher. Awesome, Linda. And Mariluz Acosta Padilla, Kathleen Merton. You'll be 60 in the summer and not looking forward to it. Miss Harper, I've gotten used to getting older. When I cried my eyes out, and I still remember to this day, and I'm so glad my kids didn't react the way I did. When I turned 30, when I was leaving my 20s, I thought, wow, I am getting so old. But after that, I was like, I'm lucky to be here, and I thank God every day when I wake up. Miss Cindy, jewelry nurse, how are you, sweetie? I hope you're doing well. I heard you were had a little bout of illness. I hope you're up and about, doing much better. But yeah, no, I was just talking about how different generations have offered different things that we can learn from. Like I said, from the civil rights movement that I was not a part of. I was, like I said, a kid listening to bubblegum music, and definitely not a part of that. I didn't even know, about the Vietnam thing or anything. I mean, I had friends who had jackets from their brothers that were serving, but it never equated to me. I was in my own little isolated bubble, like many of us were, went to Catholic school, that kind of thing. So all of these things they illuminate me these days. When I go into a book that I have to read for a class or things that I want my classes to know, and then I start reading about how people, change their minds about certain things that the injustices that happened, and how today they're still doing that. And we're sometimes, and I include myself, sometimes quick to say, oh, we don't need to do that, or we don't need to do the other. And there's certain things that I'm saying, whoa, that's a little bit too much for me. I don't think that's right. I don't think, the general neutral not putting things on a birth certificate and that kind of thing. I don't know if I'm ready for that. Like someone said about the bathrooms, that's a whole other generation. But I was talking about the freedom to work in a place where you now have harassment laws in place. I think that was a contribution from these generations that are good, that women can work freely without having to put up with things like that, or jokes or race, and I still hear racist jokes, guys. I do. And it's a real shame from people who will say things like, well, my wife is this, or my cousin's that, or I have this. And so, no, that doesn't give you the right to say a racist joke, because you're related to a certain party that you happen to be joking about. Come on now. But that comes to us to call them out, right? Trying to teach much to children the way they're going to even know about things that exactly. Oh, Kathleen, I'm so with you on that too. And I've had the experience of seeing that in my school, because I've had the kids come to me. I've had the kids come to me and tell me this and the other. Oh, why is he that way? Or why does he do that? Or why did he do this? They're not ready. They're struggling with their own sexuality. They're struggling with growing up, and they don't need things plastered in their face. I'm totally serious, because I've seen it in my school, and I've had to cringe. I've had to walk out of classrooms. I really have. I've had to cringe because of the subject matter they want to talk about, things that scare them. And I'm not just talking about genders and all of that. I'm talking about the violent things and the gun, they want to bring in and talk about topics about gun violence and police harassment. And some of them, fifth and sixth, they just left fifth grade. They're just not ready to be scared that way. So there's a lot of things. You have to keep tabs on your schools, guys. Keep tabs on what they're bringing in. I'm telling you, because a fellow teacher and I were having this discussion the other day. We had a girl who got expelled for telling a racist joke. Well, I don't know if it was racist, but she said it was inappropriate. So she didn't want to tell it to me. I didn't even ask her for it. I just asked her what happened, because we all get noticed that notes that a certain student will not be in class because he's been suspended. She has. And she said, I told an inappropriate joke. Don't ask me about it. I said, I won't. I don't even want to hear an inappropriate joke. But then my teacher and my coworker and I were talking about, really, they expelled her for that, right? But we've reported people that are violent and have threatened violence and have threatened to bomb us. And all they do is make a report. Or they don't even make a report. Oh, they're just joking. I mean, it's skewed. It really is. It really is a skewed world in many ways. But I was trying to talk about the positive thing. And the good things that have come from some of these movements. They're not all good. I'm not going to say that. I totally agree with you, Miss Kathleen. And you're absolutely right about that as well. Cannot simply believe oh, absolutely. I feel that way too. No, women, hey, I read a poem. One of my favorite poems in Spanish was called Women Lie. And it was all about how this woman would play, men against men and so forth and so on. So no, we are human. We all lie. We all have made up stories, all genders, all sexes, and there's no one perfect sex. I'm not saying that. And of course, no one should be tried, and convicted by one accusation. That's the worst part. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about legislation that is on the books in big corporations where you can be heard, and there should be litigation, and there should be mitigation. It should not just be, oh, you're fired because, Sally said that you asked her out. No, that's what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying at all. Oh my goodness, Miss Linda. Yeah, that's the bad part. There's always a bad part, isn't there, Linda? Yeah, someone was saying that too. You can't even, ask anybody out. You don't know where your limits are. And that's the interesting thing about the internet. They've brought online dating is a matter of fact. It's like everything, it's part of our world, because maybe that's why, because people are so afraid to do it in person. And that's the sad part. It's definitely not all positive. Definitely not all positive. That's not what I'm saying. There are so many negatives, absolutely. Feminist has been used, yes. Yes. I think the true feminism happened in the 60s and 70s. Most definitely. I think it should just be human dignity, human I mean, like I said, I could not believe my ears when I was hearing these 2 men talk about a overweight woman that they would never and the guy's sitting there with a double chin. The other guy didn't have a chin, so nothing to brag about, believe me. And, and criticizing women. It's just unbelievable, but that was not today's generation. I don't know, maybe today's generation is just as bad. I haven't really hung out with many too much, but, from what I see from my children's generation, I see a lot of, behavior that's not that way. It's really not. I don't know. And maybe the older men are even worse, you know? Who knows? Let me see. Oh, that's horrible, Kathy. I could not believe that. That's taking things to an extreme. Absolutely taking it to an extreme. Yeah, because, like it or not, science is science. Men are men and women are women. Like it or not, upper body strength, men dominate upper body strength. No doubt about that. And I kind of like it that way. You'd like to retire in the next few years? Yeah, I got a few more years. I think I got about 5 more years when I can make a pretty decent, I can put some food in the pantry. Oh, yeah. Your body tells you when, right? Right. Well, I'm trying to keep my body in a little bit fit. Just, I mean, the energy alone that I've been feeling lately, just going to the gym has really been incredible. I'm sleeping so much better and everything. But yeah, that was the topic today, guys. I didn't expect to get any, big political issue about anything. Everybody has their own opinion. I don't expect to change anybody's opinion about anything. As a matter of fact, I used to be really, and I still am. I love politics, but I don't talk about it on my show. I don't even talk about it on Facebook with my family because it's just so polarizing and it makes everyone feel belittled. And you never, ever will change someone's mind on Facebook. It doesn't matter how many memes you put up there. It doesn't matter how many statistics you put up there. People vote who they're going to vote for. People love who they're going to love. They follow who they're going to follow. And that's the way it should be. I still remember my mom and dad, when they would vote, they wouldn't even tell each other who they voted for. They literally took the secret ballot. They used to call it a secret ballot. They would take it to heart and they would not disclose who they voted for. And I kind of yearn for that. I really do, because people, call the other side names and then the other side's called this and then, oh, it's so horrible. And Facebook is horrible. I've had to block people, my own relatives. Don't block them, but I silence them. You can put like a little silencer on it because I just can't take it anymore. From both sides, I cannot take it. So I tune it out. Like I said, you're not going to change my mind. I'm not going to change yours. It's just the way it is. It's a very depressed area. She has to tell about her years there will make you cry. Who are you talking about, Miss Cindy? Oh, fabulous, Miss Julie. Congratulations. New babies are always the bright spot. Oh, yeah, and I think that's the problem, is that we don't respect each other's opinions anymore. We're so quick to say they're dumb Southerners, and the elitist over here, and they know better, and these know better, and oh my gosh, or they're prejudiced because they're from the South. I've sat at a dinner table where someone actually implied that everyone from the South hated gays and so forth. It was like, oh my gosh, stop. And then you don't want to say anything because you're sitting there having a nice dinner. You just kind of like, I mean, I'm not going to say anything because that's what I've chosen to do. I've chosen not to argue politics or talk about it. Or religion. I'll tell you what I'm thinking at the time, but I'm not going to tell you you should think this or you should think that at all. And the last thing I want to do is insult you because you decided to vote for somebody tomorrow that I think is ridiculous. I'm not going to tell you I think he's ridiculous or she's ridiculous because that's for whatever reason. And if you did your research and you know why, that's all that matters. And in the end, let it be. Let it be, and don't call people names because your man or woman didn't win the election. It's ridiculous. It really is. But I think that's the way it's gotten today. And that's what I was just trying to say is that we have all built this country. Some of us have struggled, some of us have pulled, and it's like what do you call that game with the rope? I forgot, where you go back and forth. What's the name of that game where everybody tug of war? I think it is. Yeah. 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 And you shouldn't get bullied for it. You should not at all. You should keep tabs on what your children are learning. If you have young children, grandchildren in the schools, if it goes against your grain, speak up. Speak up. Because you have a right to raise your children the way you want to raise them. Granted, we don't want you to raise them as racist or, any kind of people that are fearful of this crowd or that crowd. But you want them to have the values that you instill in them, and you still have the power. Ultimately, you have that power. And like I said, I've had middle school children been torn because of some of the propaganda that comes across that curriculum. And then there's very good things that come across that curriculum. Very, very good things that have taught the people that are unteachable, the people that don't have parents at home or whose parents are unfit, either because they're not there, they're absent most of the time, or they're just too busy trying to get food on the table to sit down and talk to the child about. I mean, we have that child more hours than the parents do. So we are saddled with that. I, for one, take it as an absolute honor. I really do. And I don't give them my politics. I never have, and I never will. And I've heard many teachers do it, things that they bring in. I don't do that. I do tell them constantly, read more than one book, read more than one newspaper, and listen to your parents, but learn as well and keep learning. That's what I tell them. Be respectful to everyone. Exactly. Hmm. I had to walk out. They were reading a book, and they used the F word, and it was in the book. And I was just, and all the kids looked. They all went, ooh, and they all looked at each other. And they looked at me, and the teacher just kept reading it, and I had to walk out. I was totally embarrassed by the fact that she couldn't skip that word. I mean, I would have skipped it. I don't think I would have said it. I know. I used to love to read to my children. One time we were reading Jaws, and I think there was the D word in there, the GD word, and I skipped it. I would always say something else, and they knew what it was. But I loved reading them, any kind of novel like that or fiction books and things. But I would not do that. I just could not when they were, that age. And it was just embarrassing I think for me, it was embarrassing. I left, but what can you do? You've skipped them too? I do. Most definitely. Most definitely. But I hope I didn't bring anyone anything, that goes against your grain or whatnot. I just wanted to bring some positivity in from this generation, the millennials that are often demonized and whatnot, and they often act like they have the answer for everything, and and we all do. I think all generations have gone through that. We had the best music because that's the music we grew up in, right? We grew up. It was the soundtrack of our lives, so we always consider it the best music. But politics, like everything, public policy evolves. and hopefully it'll be for the better. If it's not, if it's moving too fast, if it's hurting our children, there's going to be people that will step in. We need to step in when we think that they violated our place, and that's when it's time to speak up and step in and vote the people that you think have your values. But because someone next door or someone you work with or even your husband doesn't have that same husband or wife doesn't hold the same opinion doesn't mean they're a lesser person than you are. That's the sad part, when you can't sit at a dinner table because someone insulted the country or people that speak your language or whatnot. It's embarrassing for all of us, I think. Anyway, I'm going to go back and check the chat real quick before I sign off, because I do have to get to the gym. I've been trying to get there 5 days a week, starting on Sundays, ending on Thursdays. So I cannot cheat. I cannot cheat. I'm feeling a lot better not going to bed stuffed. A whole sense of freedom. Kids are grown. Exactly. But just don't do it on Facebook, because nobody cares. Nobody cares about your opinion on Facebook. Please spare us. I had to learn the hard way, believe me, because I used to do that. I've been on Facebook since the day they opened the doors 8 years ago, or what was it? Is it 10 years now? Yeah, I was on there from the beginning. So I've definitely grown up, and I post pictures of my grandkids and recipes and just fun things. I don't want to tell you who to vote for. Yes, I've seen that too, Miss Denise. I really have. And when my daughter was in middle school, we saw many girls having to leave school to go to their obstetrician, their OB appointments. Absolutely. All right, if I missed any of your questions, you can repost them really quickly, but I'm going to get off of here in just a minute. Too much responsibility. Absolutely. And many of them, I don't know, there's a lot of good hands-on parents right now, but many of them were, a product of their own upbringing too. And there's so many, I've run to a lot of young parents that are still trying to live their life, and they've got teenagers, but they were teenagers when they became parents. So it's hard. Oh, you were? I didn't know that, Cindy. I've seen a lot of nurses turn to teachers, but never vice versa. I was just talking about that last time, but I didn't think I would have the heart to be a nurse. As far as, I don't know, I felt like emotionally I was not prepared to be a nurse. Yeah, partnership is right. Definitely. Because they're told what to do. They bring in that curriculum and they have to go through it. And it is, it's voted on in your state legislatures. What goes into your classrooms? What goes into the textbooks of the classrooms? We had I think they even sued some people here in Texas because they didn't include enough of the minority history that made our state. Yeah. So anyway, guys, let me see. Your kids are Colombian French, grandbabies, a mix of white African American and French. Oh, that sounds fabulous. Yeah. Do parents read to their children anymore with so much social media? I know. When I see a kid that tells me they want a book for my room, I give it to them. I'm thrilled that they're still reading. Honestly, but there are, I think we remember the bad cases and the extreme cases. There's a lot of really good kids out there. Like I was saying earlier, I've been exemplified. They have exemplified to me what it is to be in today's generation, where They are very nice to each other. They're not prejudiced. They're not racist. And I've seen that firsthand, and it's wonderful to see because I do live in a very diverse city. I have kids that just came from Africa, one that doesn't speak a word of English, several that come from other countries, not a word of English. I think we have probably 20 kids in our school that don't speak a word of English. And the kids have been friendly to them. They use sign language, they use whatever signals they can to communicate, to welcome these kids. And I've seen the good side, the good side of this young generation, and I'm hoping that, you know, that they grow up well. Yeah. And the thing is they do assign it. We assign that the children read 15, 20 minutes a night. It's very, very important. But yeah, it's all about media right now. It's all about media right now. So it's up to us to instill that, and those of us who are grandparents, yeah, as well, not just parents. When you can, send books. Send books instead of video games. All right, guys, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna go get to the gym by 9 o'clock. Thank you so much for coming in. I don't know if you like this little atmosphere. I thought it was a little bit cozier to just be here in the dark with you guys, because the other room, I'm telling you, it just kept buffering on me, and I could see that a lot of things were skipping. But I'll see if I can get it fixed. We'll go over there. Thank you again for everything. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, I'm going to come back probably in the morning with a jewelry jar. So I hope to see you then, all right? Have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.